As you may or may not know, not every student learns the same way. In fact, 1 to 2 kids out of 10 have a learning disorder of some sort. A learning disability is not a problem with intelligence or motivation. It does not mean that people that have one are necessarily dumb, but their brain is simply wired differently, and we have to work around their disorder because it affects how they receive and process information. The most common types of learning disabilities are visual perception disorder, attention disorder, reading and writing disorders, and executive function disorder. In other words, they involve problems with reading, writing, math, reasoning, listening, and speaking. Attention disorder is commonly referred as ADD for attention deficit disorder, but it is also seen a lot with hyperactivity syndromes and then is called ADHD. It is one of the most common disabilities seen in school and that people know about. These people will take pills. Fortunately, there are ways to maneuver around this disorder without resorting to pills that have negative side effects. Attention disorder appears on people who have a hard time managing their attention mechanisms. These people don't lack attention, but they can't stay focused on the right thing at the right moment. The individual will seem lost in its thoughts and will be easily distracted by ambient sounds and movements. This person can have trouble keeping things organized, forgetting what he's doing, or losing his personal belongings. He can also do impulsive errors in his works. How to work around these, you will ask? It is pretty simple in theory, but in practice, while having a whole class to worry about, it gets complicated if you're not familiar with all the different types of learning disabilities. For the attention disorder, there are 3 types: the one that get easily distracted, the one that has listening difficulties, and the one lacking concentration. The methods that I'm going to suggest are, for the most of them, only applicable in a school environment. For the one that gets easily distracted, the student should be sitting in the first row where there is not much distraction for him and is close enough to the teacher that he can always watch if he still has his attention. The important factor here is to remove unnecessary information. So, on a worksheet, you can remove everything that isn't useful for the student and divide into smaller paragraphs with a lot of space in between text so he can't get lost. And giving him more time and a quiet local during exam would help too. Finally, he has to have only the necessary material on his desk so he can't get distracted by them, except if it is a fidget toy. In fact, fidget toys can be really useful for most types of attention disorders. Fidget toys are self-regulation tools to help with focus, attention, calming, and active listening. Fidget come in all different shapes, size, textures, and are often referred to by various different names. Stress ball and tangles can be used as fidget toys to promote movement and tactile input that is critical for some students' learning. Some more advanced fidget toys are now on the market, such as fidget cubes or spinners. Now, for the one that has listening difficulties, there are not much else to do except when you're talking to him, wait to be sure that the student has your attention before beginning to talk by saying his name, touching him, or just anything that can attract his attention really, like cracking a joke. For the final type of attention disorder, the one lacking concentration, you have to be concise in your explanation and be sure that the student understood the directives. To help the understanding, you can use various objects or examples to support yourself. As well as being concise while talking, you have to keep only the necessary information written on the board or underlining it if it is more important. It is a bit the same as the student that gets easily distracted. You have to separate the work into smaller parts, and it helps to have a lot of space between numbers in an exam, for example. A student with a visual perception disorder will have a hard time processing and analyzing what they are seeing. For example, the student can have a struggle to coordinate his eyes and his hand while writing, or he can be disorganized because his attention will be attracted by many stimuli at the same time and he won't be able to find certain things, even if it's in front of him. As well as that, he can have trouble finding information in a table of content, a word in the dictionary or in a page, and sometimes skip sentences while reading. Finally, the individual can also mix letters and words while writing. To get rid in a way of this disability, or to alter it at least, for the student having trouble with coordination, you can ask him to read using his fingers, and when he has to copy information from the board, give him more time, or else it will probably mess up words. For the one who has more difficulties with the perception of the fore and background, you have to keep his desk clean from anything that can mess him up in some ways and to organize it the same way every time so he can find his stuff easily. Also, you can give him a sheet of all the information that is written on the PowerPoint or on the board so he doesn't need to worry about writing it without missing information or words, as he will probably mess up some and then he won't be able to understand himself later on. For the one with an orientation and space difficulty, you can place visual landmark like post-it so that he can keep track of where he is on his paper. You have to make an emphasis on spacing words by placing, for example, his finger between each word and then progressively having less space in between. The rest of the tips on how to help these kinds of students are pretty much the same as the attention disorder ones, like making the characters bigger, spacing the work, and keeping only the necessary information on the worksheets or pretty much everywhere. Reading and writing disorders can also be called dyslexia and dysorthography, and there are 4 types of them. In general, these disabilities happen when a student has trouble to associate vowel, syllable, and consonant to form words. They will, in the most cases, write the way they speak, and when they read, the order of the letters will jump around. This is an example of what a person with dyslexia can see. It can take much more time to read than a normal person. This disorder will appear mostly with irregular words such as said, much, busy, night, or gift. These words are regularly used and it gives a hard time to students with dyslexia or dysorthography. The student needs to learn how to read properly on his own, but if he really can't understand and you want him to understand clearly the instructions, instead of making him read, you could read it for him or just give him the information orally. If he has to read, tell him to read using his fingers to keep track of where he is. The technique that will be promoted is the one where you slowly upgrade the complexity of text as he progresses. So, for example, make him read small text with simple words to begin and then incorporate more and more irregular words. To help him progress even more, a good technique is to make him associate words that he has difficulties with, visual object or pictures that he can recall it later on when he has to write that word in particular. In general, if you can make something orally instead of written, do it. Help them individually with decoding session 1 to 3 times per week, and when they will grow older, they could use a laptop to will help them with their mistakes. Executive function disorder is when you have trouble managing yourself. There are 4 levels of difficulties that can appear with this disorder. The one where the individual can't formulate a goal. They will do what they are asked to do, but nothing more. These people can also have difficulties planning stuff or just not being able to do so. When they have to start an activity, it will take a lot of effort to only begin it. People often refer this as procrastination for people without this disability. When the activity is started, they will sometimes do the same thing over and over and over again because they won't see their errors. For example, a student could put his pencil case at the same spot on his desk even if he's making it fall every time. We can compare these people to trains that can change their itineraries, even if the environment changes in a way that they have to adapt themselves to it. People without this disorder would be cars that can change their route anytime they want. To help them to progress easily, you have to formulate a goal and plan everything out for them if you want them to do something. A good idea is to make a sheet with form points and check boxes so they can see what they have to do and what they've already done. Also, you have to be clear as when to start a project or the activity. Don't ask him to start it when he's ready because he will probably never be ready. Assist the student to see if he has indeed begun working. Tell him that if he's blocking at some point, he have to go see you so he can continue to progress because he will never work out what isn't working on his own. So you have to see and then correct with him his errors. Finally, don't ask him to do 2 completely different simultaneous tasks at the same time, like asking him to listen and take notes. Instead, ask him only to listen and give him printed notes or the ones of another student. In conclusion, there are many ways to deal with learning disabilities, and it is a shame that not much teachers know about these, especially at the cégep, because even if people are older, these disabilities never completely disappear. Personally, I am affected a little bit by many of these disorders, and without reading on this subject, I would have never known how to deal with my problems at school. Few tips that we're working on a lot of cases were the one where to put only key points with only the necessary information to keep track of where you are, as well as spacing paragraphs and keeping them small with big characters. Another good one was the fidget toy, to be more concentrated as well as doing one thing at a time, writing or listening, not both. All in all, everyone should know about these learning disabilities because they're all around us at all time and it can affect people in so many ways.